Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Research Notes, which is the second video in my Africa Month series. Today, we have Nyasha Mpani, a project leader for Data for Governance Alliance project at the Institute of Justice and Reconciliation. Nyasha champions the perspective that improved access to and understanding of data can pave way for evidence-based policymaking. Nyasha, thank you for joining us today. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being on your show, especially if it's on my birthday month. So yeah, I think it's a perfect birthday gift from you to me.
Amazing. Happy birthday month to you as well.
Thank you so much.
Great. So, our introduction question is very relaxed and flexible. We just want people to get to know who you are. So, if you can just please kindly share with us today, what is your field of study and how did you get to where you are today?
Okay, so I studied sociology as my first degree from the Great Zimbabwe University. Sociology was my major, and then social ecology was my minor subject. And then I worked a little bit in Zimbabwe, but the field that I was working, it wasn't the field which I studied. I was actually in the fast consumer moving goods industry, where I was a sales representative at one of Tawanda Nyambirai organization, which was TN Bakeries. And then I moved because I really wanted to do my master's, and I also felt like I was lost. I was not in the right space. I then moved to Cape Town in 2019, and then I started doing my master's in development studies, which is also housed within the sociology department. So I then finished my master's and graduated in 2021 at the University of Cape Town. And then last year, I then also began my PhD within the humanities field at the University of Cape Town.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. And I see that you've transitioned from being industry based to being a student once again. And now, as I mentioned, you are a project leader as well as a student. And so I've just been thinking because when I see Nyasha, I don't know if you've heard this word, I see someone I call a pracademic, right? And some of the questions that come with that is, how do you keep your feet in both academia and doing real work on the ground? And how do you even manage to carry that so well? Because I think you're doing it great.
So one of the things that I want to say, it's not easy, but I have to make it happen because one of the person who also introduced me to that word, which you say academic, was my academic supervisor, my master's academic supervisor, Dr. Jacques Devet. He's one of the lecturers who always pushed us as students to say that you should be a academic. And I would always ask him, what do you mean when you say academic? And then he would then probably tell us that, you know what, you need to make sure that you mix the academic side with the practical side so that you can be able to test some of these things that we teach you in class to see if they work in the real field of work. So I've always wanted to be that person who, because while I do love academia, but I don't think it's my calling. I've tutored before, but I do not think that that's where my calling is. I find myself more excited in the other field of work where I do engage with actors who are into policy making and driving some of the work that we do in the civil society space. So I've enjoyed that space a lot, and I've told myself that while least I'm trying to acquire to have a PhD certificate, I also need to also have the practical experience in terms of what is really happening on the ground. Because one of the dangers that I do not want is when I finish my PhD and I then lack on the practical side of it. I feel like I would have done a disservice to myself. So I've tried by all means to fuse the practical side and the academic side, but it also comes with a lot of burden because at the same time you have to juggle schoolwork, at the same time you have to juggle or the actual work to where I'm working. So it's all about prioritizing deadlines, ensuring that I deliver. So in most instances, you'll find myself, I might not have my weekends. My weekends might be devoted in trying to meet a deadline probably that's needed on a Monday, when I know that on a Monday I also need to be in class as well. So yeah, it also comes with its own, but so far I'm right now in the second year of my PhD, and yeah, I seem to have mastered how to go about it. But it comes at a price.
Thank you so much for that. And we see that it's not easy, as I would have imagined. But I think in your case, knowing that your trajectory is mostly non-academic might help. Some of us followed strictly just academia, and we were pressuring ourselves to get teaching experience as much as we were doing research because we knew we wanted to be in academia. So I've recently started trying to pivot, and it's been such a struggle because I think very much in a theory-based way. And I've seen that when I engage with societies or people out there, there's really like no room to start by conceptualizing in such a way. So I've just been wondering, have there been instances where you've seen your theory really match with projects on the ground? And if so, you can just give us an example of such a project where that has happened.
Yeah, so in terms of that question, yes, there are instances where theory merge in terms of what is happening in the field, but they do not really, trying to look for a better word, they do not really click per se, as in like this theory really fits. There's always instances where you now need to make sure that you either alter some aspects of the theory so that it fits within the context. For instance, I'll give you an example whereby you are in a field and maybe you're trying to do these consultations. A theory will tell us that let's do a what you call it, a bottom-up approach. But in actual essence, when you get into the field, you find that there are also gatekeepers who probably might you might get into a field and you want to engage with the community, and there are gatekeepers such as your chief, or there's a gatekeeper such as your headman. That means that the bottom-up approach that you'd want to do will not go in that direction, because there are gatekeepers that you also now need to talk to. And in some instances, they might say, just talk to us and don't talk to the people on the ground. So as a result, because of the cultural differences in different societies, you are then forced to go with what works within a different cultural setup than what the theory might implore you to do, like go down to the actual person on the ground who doesn't have hold a title, who's not a person who's in charge of any society, and get information or get data from them. So in some instances, you find that you get into a society whereby it's strictly you have to talk to the person who is in charge, who's the chief, or who's the village head, and that's that. You can't go beyond that. So there are those instances where you just need to, I might, for lack of a better word, abandon theory and work and just go with what works for you to be able to get information, even though you are getting information that you think, I really wanted to get it from a commoner.
Definitely. I think that is very important and really appreciate that you've come to realize that and to make the research work actually take the approach which suits the context. And just another question. Personally, I've struggled when I go into communities doing academic research because people feel like they're over-researched. You get into a community, let's say it's rural KZN, and people ask the first question is, are you doing a thesis? And then I'm like, well, yes. And they're like, we are so tired of you people coming to do research on us. And obviously, you're going to write your thesis. They already now know that there's a book that these students write. Does it make it easy when you do research and you introduce yourself as someone, for example, from the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation?
Yeah, I always struggle, and I think you are right, because I also think us as researchers, the way we position ourselves when you go into communities to research, it also then makes us get such responses as the one that you are saying. And also, it also puts us in a very insidious position, because sometimes we over research places, if I may say. Right now, I know that if you're in Zimbabwe, Chiwi is the most researched place in the country. So,
Mm,
or every researcher wants to research Chiwi for one reason or the other. So, as us researchers, we always want to make life easier for us, because we know if we try and research KZN, it's the most researched area. Even if you're trying to look for literature, you find a lot of literature in terms of what is happening in KZN. So we need to deviate from that approach of over researching a place that has been
mm,
researched, and try and look for other fresh areas where um, 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 researches have not been done that much. But also to further answer your question is that we also need to try and ensure that when you get into these communities, we try and lower ourselves down and put ourselves at the same levels as these people in the communities,
mm.
because we tend to want to get into these spaces as experts, try and prove ourselves that we know much than these communities know. Yet, in essence, we actually do not know anything. The people in these communities, they've got a lot that they can teach us, a lot that we can learn from. So it's a mix of a balance in terms of trying not over research a place, and also at the same time trying to lower ourselves to the same levels as those people that we are researching, and try to put our titles and work jackets off when we enter into these spaces.
Yes, definitely. I agree with you on that. And I'm also taking away that just because someone is researching under an organization may not necessarily make it easier, because at the end of the day, people are still seeing you as someone who's taking down data for the purpose of a report or whatever it may be.
And
Great.
and and, and also just to add on that, remember, we are also taking people's time.
Mm,
So with how things are in terms of the economy, people will be like, I'm wasting my 15 minutes just sitting here listening to Prim asking me questions. At the end of the day, Prim is not going to leave a dollar or something in my pocket. And
yes,
also, when we're looking at doing it research, the ethics of research doesn't allow us to also even buy these respondents stuff or give them anything. So I think also, I don't know how best we can navigate this. It's not allowed, I know, within the research field, trying to buy some stuff for your
mm,
response, to act as if you are soliciting a different kind of response. But I think there is a time where we need to be realistic, that we are taking people's time, and
exactly.
they need also to make them feel appreciated that we have taken their time, and also just give them something. I know if I ask you for work Prim, you can't say I'm doing it for free. You also charge. So why can they not charge for us getting information from them? So it's a
Exactly.
conversation that we might need to start having as people who are in this academic and research space.
Actually, definitely. Even if it means giving them something that is aligned to the research we're speaking to, or the time, as you mentioned. Definitely.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to move on to the question that is in line with this year's theme for the Africa Day, or rather, just the African Union as a whole. They aim to educate an Africa that is fit for the 21st century, which is very broad. I think about a lot of things when I think about this: climate, artificial intelligence, the need to have more people doing STEM work because we haven't industrialized much. So, what does this mean to you? And how do you think we can work towards this set goal?
No, I think it's a very good theme, which also tries to speak to the needs of the current Africa as education system, which doesn't fit or doesn't align to the 21st century needs. There's a lot that we need to address in terms of our education system. It's no longer fit for purpose in some instances, because right now we find ourselves that vocational work, which is over the time been demonized, or not get that prominence as the other education, is now the one that is putting food on the table. So there's need for us to change the narrative in terms of trying to ensure that we promote these vocational training schools, the education that is being offered in these schools. Is it also fit for purpose? Is it also aligning with the different emerging technologies that are also coming up? And try and avoid this so much theory-based education that we've been used to on the continent, which is not solving the continent's problem. I think also the COVID pandemic taught us that there's something that we really need to do with our education system as a continent. The whole continent waited to get a vaccine from outside the continent. Yet we pride ourselves saying we have got an education which is fit, but we failed to produce a drug or a vaccine that could assist us during the COVID-19 pandemic. So it also speaks to what needs to be done in terms of our education system. Also, given the historical issues that are at hand, the fact that we were colonized, we were marginalized for quite some time. So there are so many historical and infrastructural challenges that are affecting us as a continent in terms of our education system. How best do we need to address this? How best can we resource them? We are talking about digital skills. Are our schools all digitized? Do they have the requisite digital infrastructure to be able to carry out the education? I refer you back again to COVID-19. Some students failed to go to school because they didn't have access to the internet. Yet other schools who were at a better advantage, they continued with online learning. They continued using different digital tools to be able to engage with their teachers, and life was normal. But for the rural child somewhere in KZN or in rural Zimbabwe, that was the end of it. And some did not even recover after that. So there's a lot that we need to address in terms of our education system. And I think this theme speaks very well into what needs to be addressed and where the attention of our development partners, governments, and different civil society organizations should focus on. We should resource our education system. We should try by all means to make sure that even our teachers are also re-educated in terms of making them knowledgeable about these different digital tools that are now there within the 21st century, and how they can use them in their delivery during teaching. So yeah, I think it's a very important topic for the year.
Amazing. So I see a lot of work that needs to be done and the need to quickly shift. People were still focusing on goals like we need so many children to go through primary, through secondary, through, universities. But I do think that we were behind and still are when it came to thinking about how, for example, I've heard some politicians right now ahead of the South Africa election saying we have so many unemployed people who are unemployable, which is a double tragedy, right? I've
Mm.
seen what I think is called brain waste. A lot of us going overseas, doing work that is not commensurate with what we studied, not being able to translate our Africa-based qualifications into what is needed abroad. And it's only a select few, maybe, who go to institutions that have facilities that were part of, for example, the making of innovations related to COVID-19. But because they were doing it under an institution from abroad, obviously that's where the talent is based. And they were not able, for example, to gain leverage in terms of saying, okay, I'm from Zimbabwe or I'm from South Africa. I've been part of this innovation. Can this mean a free batch to my country? Because,
Mm.
the whole processing was not funded by Zimbabwe or by the African Union. So I do think we
Mhm.
need to step up before something else gives us a wake-up call.
Yes.
Amazing. So I always also put myself on the hot seat as part of these interviews. Do you have any question or questions for me?
Well, I think I've got one question. My question is going to be, I think it's going to be quite difficult for you, but I think you have given me the opportunity. So let me ask. So
Okay.
one of my question to you is only going to be one is do you have any regrets of doing a pure PhD? And if you've got one, what is that regret?
Ooh, that's a major one. So I regret having done my PhD when I did it. I grew up from the age of 15 wanting to have a PhD by the age of 30 because I had seen my mom going back to A levels and doing her bachelor's when she was a mother and her master's when she was a mother. And I felt like she was burdened. So the goal was to have everything before life looks a certain way, not competing for school fees with children, all of those things. I was trying to create a perfect life. But I'm here now, almost 3 years later after my PhD, and I'm like, I feel like there's so much more I could have done professionally and then acquired the PhD even using my own means, right? When I got my PhD, it was because there was funding, and I wasn't that person who wanted to reach an age where funding is not available. Most funding these days, for example, PhD are kept at the age of 40 or even 32, which is ridiculous. So I regret having panicked. I wish I had gone into the field and worked for longer. So, for context, when I went to my PhD, I had been working for a Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And I think if I had a wealth of experience, let's say 5 or 10 years from there, and even base my thesis on working knowledge of what happens in diplomacy and different processes, I would have had a better PhD experience. That even applies to the key informants I would have interviewed for my study. That even applies, I think, to my contribution to knowledge, because then what I have is I was a fresh academic with lots of insights from key informants and experts and some theory, and now trying to get into spaces and give advice based on my own research. People don't see me as someone who is experienced enough, because anyone can conduct the study that I conducted with the little experience that I had. So, yes, and this regret only hit me about a month ago, actually. So thank you
So
for
it's still fresh.
asking me. It's still fresh. And it's weird that it's there. I never imagined that it would be there. Yeah.
No, it's fine. But at least it's a regret that can be, if I may say, you can be able to address it. It's done, it's done, you already have it.
Yes.
Yeah, and opportunities are there. You can still find opportunities for you to be able to gain the experience that you want. And if you want to do another second PhD, you know you've got the skills. You can also even do a second PhD as and when you want.
Yes, true. I do think what I need to focus on now is getting that experience that I much needed, and also just to always remind myself, which I think I do a lot, just humble the PhD in me, going in to learn, even me, if it means I'm at a lower level than I would have been had I stayed on in a particular institution. So that's something I'm definitely going to be working on, and also hoping that people don't see me as the academic, because in most of these spaces. People have at most a master's, but don't really want to interact with people that are academics, because we have created a certain face of what an academic looks like, talks like, which can become a fact. Sometimes we don't realize you're speaking or acting in a particular way. So hopefully, in terms of another degree, maybe not another PhD, but I'm definitely going to go for a qualification in economics. I'm going to use your interview as a way to give people this advice. I have
Okay.
seen that a lot of people that succeed in the fields that I'm interested in, your policy making and your including gender responsive budgeting and whatnot, have an economic muscle. And I think it
Mm.
has taken them far. And I had to ask one of them, I think 2 months ago during a political event, and she attested that having an economic muscle actually helped her to get through many stages career-wise. And so I do think that an economics qualification has to come some way, whether if it's a bachelor's for 4 years or even a master's, but not another PhD.
So are you ready for the numbers and the graphs?
I am. I am. I think I needed to be this mentally ready, when I was younger, but I didn't even know, I was just pumped up about politics, gender, and international relations. And that sort of like career advice never came through, unfortunately, but maybe it was for a reason. So I'm ready to tackle them. I'm ready to be humbled by negative marking or whatever it is that comes in that field. And yeah, it will probably be humbling seeing classmates thinking, why is the doc, not getting
Yeah,
this right?
younger classmates to you getting distinctions and you struggling with 40s.
Exactly. And having to actually ask, because there's group work involved, there's needing peers to support you. So I think that
Uh,
would be daunting, but worth the while because that's what's needed when someone is a student. Definitely.
okay, no, it's fine. Thank you so much. I've also learned something from your regrets, and it's at least I still have got time to correct those mistakes.
Yes, but I hope you're not thinking about dropping out. I think you're doing well balancing and you've come
Mm,
so far, at least practically. And hopefully, whatever research you're doing is also in line with the work you do to just make it easy for you to get around.
mm. Yeah, no, I thank you so much.
Nice. Thank you for that. Do you have any further questions for me?
No, I don't have any further questions. I think I've asked you a very terrible question, uh, which also maybe put you in a very difficult spot from now up until maybe during the weekend.
Yes, probably. Yeah, but timely nonetheless.
Okay, no, it's fine. Thank you.
You're welcome. So before we part, I give, our participants an opportunity to say any last words they have. They don't have to be academic, just something that you think the viewers of this channel would be powered by or inspired by somehow.
So, what I might just want to encourage your viewers is that learning is a never-ending process. People should continuously learn, and when I say learn, I'm not saying learning being in class or gaining some academic knowledge, but this is what I always tell myself that every year I need to learn a new skill. I need to learn something new that I haven't done.
Mm,
I think it helps me to be able to push myself a little bit in trying to attain some of the things that I might have been scared before to attain. So I encourage your listeners and your viewers to push themselves to learn something new every year. Always ask yourself that at the end of the year or at the beginning of the year, what do I want to learn?
mm.
So for me, I haven't been I don't know how to swim. This year I told myself I need to learn how to
Wow.
swim.
Yes.
So I started learning to swim. I now know how to swim, even though I'm still perfecting. It's a skill. Last year, I told myself that I want to, because I'm in the space where I'm handling projects and whatever, I
Mm.
need to learn project management. And I enrolled with UCT for a project management course. So you see, I'm always pushing myself to say I need to learn something new. I need to try something that I haven't done. That way, you always push yourself to be able to do stuff that scares you. And once you beat that fear, you see that the world is full of endless possibilities. So always say, learn something new. Push yourself to learn something new.
Amazing. And congratulations on the newly acquired swimming skills.
You will
Um,
see me at the
yes.
Olympics very soon.
Ah, nice one, please. Because I feel like ever since Kirsty, we haven't had anyone representing them. And the swimming, perhaps, I mean, I stand to be corrected. Maybe it happened in 2021, but I don't think this year we have as well. So please,
Mm.
let's do this. And
You
I,
don't worry. You keep this video. You use it
yes,
as a way. You told me that you're going to be
definitely.
the Olympics.
We'll just pull out the clip and be like, when is this happening?
Yes.
Amazing. So thank you so much, Nyasha, for joining us today on Research Notes. I am Dr. Primrose Azetje Bima. I'm on a mission to demystify the world of research by engaging in conversations with a wide set of intellectuals, academics, and industry professionals. Thank you so much once again, and it's goodbye for now.